Let's bring in Cato Institute Research Fellow Emily Ekins. Good to see you, Emily. Thanks very much for joining us. So the field gets smaller. What's the impact?
Well, I think it's not just the narrowing field, but also what happened with Marco Rubio in New Hampshire. After what happened in Iowa, people expected a surge, and that just didn't materialize. And so people are wondering what's going to happen with Marco Rubio perhaps declining in the polls.
So, Marco Rubio had a tough night because of Christie, and the fact is Christie really didn't benefit from it.
No, he didn't. And that's actually what's really interesting is that Marco Rubio underperformed by about 4 points based on what we expected from the polls in New Hampshire. But Christie, he didn't really, gain much from his attacks on Rubio. Who I think actually will benefit is Ted Cruz.
Why is that?
Well, so this is what people don't understand, is that Marco Rubio is often viewed as the more establishment candidate, and Ted Cruz is often viewed as the more outsider candidate. But in reality, both candidates draw very similar voters that have similar moral profiles. And typically when political analysts look at voters, they're looking at things like demographics and political ID. They don't look at the actual values that those voters have. And I actually was able to collect a bunch of data on a national survey and found that Rubio and Ted Cruz supporters, who are disproportionately Tea Party folks, have a strong desire for personal accountability. And that tends to lead them to want limited government. The GOP is having a civil war over really what is the role of government. Do we actually want to lower spending and actually reduce taxes? Now, Trump's kind of distracted from this, but it still exists. And right now, Jeb Bush is not that alternative. So a lot of Marco Rubio supporters, they do actually have this strong desire to actually reduce the size and scope of government.
Right.
And right now, the only alternative is Ted Cruz.
If you turn and look at the Democratic side, it is the opposite sentiment. It's the more government, the better. The more money that the government takes away from those who are successful, the better. And actually, success is evil is essentially the message from Bernie Sanders. And what is very worrisome to these markets, Bernie Sanders, look at his popularity. He raised $6 million in 24 hours after the New Hampshire polls closed. He is outraising Hillary Clinton in Silicon Valley.
Wow.
Among the biggest technology firms. He raised more than $100,000 in the fourth quarter, and it was $105,000, $10,000 more than Hillary Clinton. What does this world come to that you have technology professionals giving money to a socialist?
These are individual contributions or corporate contributions?
Individual contributions.
But small individual
Yes.
contributions. Yeah.
But frightening, nonetheless, I think.
What do you think about that, Martin? I mean, I know you've been supportive of President Obama. Do you think that this tells us anything in terms of how much support Bernie Sanders is getting relative to Hillary?
We're going through a I'm going to say revolution. I mean, it's not a revolution, but we're going through post-2008-9, post the concerns about the establishment, the banking establishment, the financial establishment. We're going through a populist revolution. So you see it in America, you see it in the UK with the UK IP party in relation to the European decision, the Brexit decision. You see it in Spain, you see it in Greece, you see it in Italy. I mean, this is a natural phenomenon in the sense that we've seen it many times before. The big issue is how important is this going to be in terms of real political power. There's a long way to go yet, and we've seen a lot of fluctuation post-Iowa. Even in the context of Iowa,
right.
I'm sure we'll see a lot of fluctuation to come. I would still hold that the likelihood is that Hillary Clinton would be the Democratic nominee. It's open season on the Republican side, we'd see. I still think that Rubio obviously has flubbed it, but originally Kasich plus Rubio I would have thought would have been the most potent combination against Hillary.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, it may play out differently. But I would say the Republicans would be very pleased if Sanders was to get the nomination.
Yeah, I think that's right. All right, we'll take a short break. Emily Ekins, thanks very much for joining us.